You can read all of the books, listen to all of the podcast episodes, and still find yourself being triggered by the same things and the same people over and over again. And it's not because you're not trying hard enough or because there's something wrong with you. It's because you're trying to control your reactions instead of actually understanding your reactions. Because your reactions don't come from the present moment. They come from the past that hasn't fully been processed or healed yet. And until you really understand that, you'll keep repeating the same emotional patterns in your life, just in different situations. So today we're going to go deeper into what it actually means to become somebody who doesn't react to everything. To start off, I want to talk about something a lot of people misunderstand. Being triggered by somebody or something is not the problem. Think about that for a second. Being triggered is the signal that you need to pay attention to. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to be curious about. Because if you just guilt yourself and shame yourself for being triggered, you learn nothing. But if you get curious around why you're getting triggered, you really start to understand who you are and what's going on behind the scenes. Every time you get triggered, you're being shown a part of yourself that is still sensitive, still reactive, still holding on to something that isn't healed from the past. Most people's instinct whenever they're triggered is to look outward. Why would they say that to me? Why would they do that? What did I do to make them react that way? But what you need to do is look inward. The deeper question is, why did that affect me so deeply? And I am now taking responsibility for being triggered. The way I like to look at it is this. It's like salt on a wound. If the wound is healed, the salt doesn't do anything. But if the wound hasn't healed, it hurts like hell. Whenever you're triggered, that's the salt. If you get triggered on skin that's already healed over, no big deal. But if there's salt on top of an open wound, it's going to hurt. That's the universe saying, hey, you haven't healed here yet. You need to work on yourself in this area. So it's not about them, and it's not about the circumstances. It's about why it affected you that way and how you need to heal. Most people don't look at it this way. What's really important to understand is that every moment of your life, your mind is giving meaning to everything happening around you. Your brain is a meaning-making machine. It's doing it all day long. And the meaning you give a situation is what creates your emotional response. So when someone says something and you feel triggered, it's not their words that are actually triggering you. It's the meaning your mind is attaching to those words. And that meaning is shaped by your past, your experiences, your identity, your wounds. Simple example. If somebody cuts you off on the road and there's no reaction, fine. But if somebody else gets cut off and blows up over it, it's the same circumstance with a different meaning attached. Something like, that person doesn't care about me, or they think they're more important than I am. It's not the event. It's the meaning your mind attaches to the event. And now you're reacting to the meaning, not the actual situation. So we need to learn how to get to a point of not being reactive. And when I talk about not reacting, I don't mean becoming an emotionless statue. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm talking about is becoming aware of what's going on inside of you before you react to anything. It's extreme self-awareness. It's creating space within yourself. Right now, for most people, something happens and the reaction is instant. There's no space, no awareness in that space. It's just an automatic response you've been running for 25 years. But the psychologist Viktor Frankl said that growth happens in the tiny space between stimulus and response, between something happening and us actually responding. In that tiny space, if we become aware of what's happening within ourselves, we can choose how we want to respond instead of just responding in a pattern we've had our whole life, or one we learned from our parents. So between something happening to you and you actually responding, there's a moment where you can decide how to respond without being swept away by old emotions or old stories. So when I say try to work toward never reacting, I don't mean don't feel I mean, don't let the feelings control you. You can have feelings and not be controlled by them. I know that's foreign to a lot of people, because for a long time when I was younger, I was just controlled by my emotions. I didn't feel like I was in the driver's seat, but it's not about not feeling. It's about not letting your feelings control you. You're experiencing a feeling. You can decide how you react. You can notice it. Sit with it for a minute. Get curious about it. Why do I feel this way? What's going on in my head? Why do I always get mad when this happens? What meaning am I giving this situation? What does it remind me of in my past that isn't healed yet? That's where your true growth actually lies, when you get really curious about your emotions, your reactions, and the meaning you're attaching to situations. Because your emotions aren't problems you need to fix. They're signals you need to listen to. They're pointing you in a direction. Stop ignoring where they're trying to point you. This also applies to how other people interact with you. When you see a 40-year-old man who's harsh with everybody, who's having a breakdown or yelling at somebody, what you're seeing is a 40-year-old body that still has a little child in it. It's a child that's still hurting, still wounded, in an adult's body. And here's why you can understand this. People don't see you as you are. They see you as they are through their beliefs, their past, their wounds, their conditioning, the patterns they learned from their parents, unconsciously. So no matter how clearly you explain yourself, people will still misunderstand you sometimes, because people can only understand from the level of their own perception. And it's not because there's something wrong with you, and it's not because you failed to explain yourself. Sometimes it's just because they're filtering you through their own lens. So if you need to set boundaries with somebody, your boundaries might feel like rejection to someone with abandonment wounds. That doesn't mean your boundaries are bad. It just means they haven't healed that part of themselves. If you're confident and somebody reacts to it, your confidence might feel like arrogance to someone who's insecure. If you're honest and don't like to beat around the bush, your honesty might feel like an attack to someone who avoids the truth. It's the same you, just a different lens. This is where most people get stuck. When someone reacts negatively to them, they think, I need to change myself. So they try to explain themselves more, soften themselves, shrink themselves for the other person. But it's important to understand it's not just about how you communicate or who you are. It's also about how someone is able to receive you as you work on yourself and become more confident. It might trigger other people. That doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It can mean something's off in that person's perception based on their past. Some people can only meet you at the level they're at themselves. If they don't respond to you the way you want, they might be triggered by you, protecting their own wounds without realizing it. If you're not careful, you'll accidentally change yourself to meet other people's expectations. You'll start carrying labels that were never yours. Maybe I'm too much. Maybe I'm selfish. Maybe I'm hard to love. I want to walk this line carefully, though. It doesn't mean you ignore all feedback from other people. It means you learn the difference. Real feedback sounds like, hey, this is how your behavior impacted me. Someone projecting their own stuff onto you sounds like, this is who I've decided you are. There's a big difference. You cannot explain yourself into clarity with someone who's committed to misunderstanding you. At some point, your piece looks like, I know who I am, even if that person doesn't, because their lens is not my identity. Don't take on what somebody else says about you that just means you're being filtered through their lens. I'd rather define my own identity than look to other people to tell me who I am, knowing their filter is already clouded. The grounded, self-aware people don't need you to shrink so they can understand you. They see you clearly because they're already looking through clarity, not through a clouded lens. That's the shift you need to understand. You won't fit everyone's lens, and everyone's perception isn't the truth about you anyway. What you start to become at peace with, once you go on this journey of self-discovery, heal your wounds, and come into contact with who you truly are, is simply accepting yourself as you are. Peace comes when you figure out who you are, accept it, stop fighting it. Stop trying to control everything around you and become okay with who you are. When you're truly okay with yourself, you don't need everyone else to accept you. What matters more than almost anything else isn't whether other people accept you. It's whether you accept you. Because if you accept you, it doesn't matter whether anyone else does. To accept yourself, to love yourself, to truly know yourself, that might be the highest form of enlightenment any of us can reach. And the deepest truth in all of this is healing, is not when life stops triggering you, because you'll always be triggered. None of us are becoming fully enlightened monks in this lifetime, but real healing isn't about not being triggered. It's when your reaction to those triggers changes. The same situation that used to ruin your entire day now just passes through and you barely notice. The same comment that used to hit a nerve barely lands anymore. That's the proof that you're healing, growing, and building a deeper relationship with yourself. Not because life got easier, but because you became more grounded within yourself. This is what I love about Stoicism. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't try to control the world. They worked on themselves. They focused on what was within their control, their thoughts, their responses, their inner state. That's probably one of the reasons Stoic philosophy has made such a comeback in the last 5 to 10 years. So many people resonate with it. We can't control most of the circumstances in our life, but we can control how we react to them. That's what we should be trying to master, because that's the one thing we can really control. The world will always be unpredictable. People will say things, situations will happen, but your peace is something you can build, something you're in control of. And when you get to a place of peace, your calm doesn't have to be forced. It just becomes something you are, something other people feel by being around you. So remember this, the goal is not to stop reacting completely. The goal is to heal the part of you that feels like it needs to react.